Welcome back to Let's Talk Live. I'm Paul Cobbin, and whether you're checking this out in the live open mic or catching the restack over on Substack, the floor is open to you. So please drop your comments, ask your questions, and enjoy the conversation. So before we look at our book topic today, I want to address something directly. A few people have asked me why I keep talking about my health, my history, and my time in India. Some ask where these stories come from and why they keep coming back up. Well, here's the plain truth. When you face a severe chronic diagnosis, your life fractures into a clear before and after. My journey through prostate cancer, followed by my diagnosis of severe coronary artery disease and cerebral small vessel disease, it's not a script written for entertainment. It's the raw ground truth of my life. And I don't share these milestones to play a broken record. I share them because when you're sitting in the middle of a health crisis, you need to know that the person talking to you has walked through the fire and found a way out. This week, our focus centers on the sessions from the Edge broadcast, where I sat down with Pradeep Goenka in the northeast Indian village in the Himalayas. Now, Pradeep is a yoga, prana, vidya healer, and we discussed a topic that hits at the very core of our daily terrain, the concept of underrated tools in functional health. Now, functional health, if you recall from my book and my Substack and so on, is that broad range of health aspects that you can apply to a chronic illness. So it's not just about modern medicine. It's also about ancient remedies. It's about traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, which is the Indian custom. And there are others around the world. And today, yoga, prana, vidya is part of that Indian culture that dates back thousands of years. So when we talk about health recovery, people usually think about heavy medical interventions or complex exercise routines. But as Pradeep explained during our time together, the most underrated tools are often the ones sitting right in front of us. And you don't need to buy anything to use them. They're the subtle, everyday practices that restore energy flow across our entire system. So if you're sitting there feeling fatigued, good morning, Richard. Not sure if you're fatigued or not, but I just noticed you there. So if you're sitting feeling fatigued, wondering how to navigate the noise of your clinical charts, take a deep breath. Today, we pull back the curtain on how energy, subtle bodies, and simple daily practices can help you move from passive survival into active recovery. So I wonder, Rana and Richard, what energy flows have you noticed this week that seemed a little strange? Feel free to put your answer down in the chat here, and that gives us a chance to have a talk about it. So let's look at energy from the perspective of my book, Decode Your Diagnosis. And specifically, let's have a look at chapter 20, which is about health is your occupation. Because health does become your occupation if you're a person with chronic illness. You wake up every day and the focus on life seems to come from that perspective. And everything needs to revolve around it to continue moving forward. It doesn't mean that life is taken over by it, but your work shouldn't overtake your life either. So there's the between the two. Conventional medicine approaches chronic illness by isolating individual organs. At Formula for Life, we define health as an occupation. That means adopting the daily mindset of a skilled artisan or a trade person, building mastery over your personal health. Your recovery cannot be a side hustle squeezed into the leftover fragments of an exhausted calendar. It requires daily commitment, discipline, and structural mastery across your mind, your body, and your soul. And this came home rather hard to me this week when I had my regular consult. Every 6 months I talk to my naturopath, and she read me the riot act, to be honest, because At the moment, I've got a pretty sedentary life, and it's it's having an impact on me. And so she was suggesting that I should do some more weights. Even here in the office, I should have some sort of a weight set or something. I mean, I've got this, one of these hand crimping tools, which I use quite a bit. But there always needs to be something going on to protect that health. I see Rana's energy is about the full moon this week. Oh, I totally agree with that. Our grandchildren were over this week, as they are every week on Wednesday, and it was a full moon. I was a madhouse for a short while there. So I should get back to the topic though. To understand how to maintain this mastery a little better, let's look at what Pradeep unpacked during our interview regarding the Koshas, or the 5 human sheaths that exist. Because one thing I've never explored, I should say, is energy in the body. And when we were sitting in Goenka's village and his people were feeding us lunch and everything, energy suddenly became something of interest to us. So there's 5 sheaths. There's Anamaya kosha, which is the physical body. That's the gross, tangible structure that survives through food, water, and oxygen. It's where physical symptoms eventually manifest. Then there's Prana Maya kosha, the energy body, the subtle layer that interpenetrates the physical form. It's by universal life force, a thing called prana, which we absorb through air, sunlight, ground, water, and nourishment. Good morning, Wanda. How are you? Manamaya kosha, the emotional sheath, this layer holds our feeling of pleasure, pain, attachment, and desire. Vijnana Maya kosha is the mental sheath. This is the home of our thoughts. The average human mind processes roughly 70,000 thoughts every day. Just think of that, 70,000 thoughts. That's a lot of energy passing through the mental sheath every day. And then there's Anandamaya kosha, which is the sheath. This is the innermost layer reflecting the soul's true nature, quiet joy and connection. So when you treat health as your primary occupation, you realize that a physical symptom like stress, that heartbeat, that pain in the chest and so on. I'm not talking heart attacks or things. I'm just talking that pain, that weight of stress that comes down on us in the Anamaya kosha rarely starts in the physical body. Interestingly, the World Health Organization suggests that functional health insights show that over 90% of chronic disruptions are actually psychosomatic. So they start out there in the other energy sheaths before they come to the physical. They originate as emotional tension or negative thought patterns in the deeper koshas. Over months or years, that unaddressed negative energy hardens into physical inflammation or organ distress. So look, I'd like to stop there at the moment and just have a think about that, because one of the things I keep experiencing in these interviews is the lines that I've crossed in terms of signs that I should have been taking more notice of earlier in life. Now, I'm not saying woulda, coulda, I'd live in the past, for instance. In fact, I'm more alive now than I have ever been. I'm healthier now than I've ever been. But I'm also bearing chronic illness, and severe chronic illness at that. And so I've crossed those lines. I had a bucket load of stress when I was liquidating my family business, and bingo, there comes prostate cancer. Now, prostate cancer is not a thing genetically in my family. So it has to be, of course, there's got to be some genetic propensity there, but epigenetics have to kick in terms of those stress loads. Now, that was a very stressful period. And so literally after the business was acquired by somebody else, I went and did a 50th birthday checkup, and bingo, the last thing we found was prostate cancer after everything proved to be okay. Come forward 6 years when I was back in the seat again as a CEO of a division, and bang, severe heart disease. My spirit was tossed around in both of these cases. In the case of the the liquidation, it was a negative instance. In the case of being a CEO, it was a positive instance, but it was very demanding. I was flying every couple of weeks to some other place other than home. I was constantly in global meetings in the World Bank, in the United Nations, in their Water Foundation, and so on, which is my expertise in engineering. And so we were talking about big issues, and I was talking with prime ministers and presidents of countries and chief public servants in their fields globally. And so all of that built up and creates a physical manifestation. So the most underrated tool in your alignment framework is not an expensive piece of clinical machinery. It's energy awareness and clearing, which is the conscious practice of detecting and removing dirty, diseased energy from your subtle bodies before they harden into physical illness. So, to help you monitor these variables without hitting analysis paralysis, you can talk directly with our digital companion, Farmer Concordia, over at Formula for Life. She's been designed and trained around the Formula for Life. Oh, there it is, that book behind me, Formula for Life book, and its framework. And I'm currently working on book number 2, which is the alignment pathway. Now, Farmer already has that in her design and in her knowledge. And so she uses those along with some guiding principles and international standards to run calculations across your personal parameters to help you read your body's signals before a crisis occurs. But before we go on, I'd like to ask you, where are you currently trying to force your life into a rigid checklist where you think health should look like? Wonder, what's you at the moment? What are you currently trying to force? Or Richard, what are those things that are really hard on you trying to push you into an area that's energy-wise is depleting? Remember, your elements are your mind, body, and soul. And if you're actively listening to the signals your elements are throwing at you, then you can feel where the energy is out of balance, because you've heard me talk before about a thing called dynamic harmony, which is not about balance specifically, because balance is utopia. It's about trying to maintain a level that is workable for you in your situation between mind, body, and soul. So this year was our second trip to India, and I must say the Himalayas, I stumbled there because in India they call it the Himalayas. We call it, in Australia, and I'm sure others call it the Himalayas. But I must say, in the Himalayas and in Pradeep's remote village up there in the mountains, it was such a serene location, completely void of the regular pressures that we have back home. And also all the regular distractions, all those noises of highways and buildings being built and so on. So sitting on the hillside in the Himalayas with Pradeep, feeling that breeze in the trees, I experienced firsthand how energy healing works. Now, Pradeep guided us through a simple demonstration to feel the subtle life force between our hands. And I see Rana here suggesting negative work and environment, which is talking about, the highway and so on. But what I'd like to do now is I'd like to give you a demonstration. And we'll talk this through, because as I brought my hands together, my palms together slowly up in the Himalayas, I felt this physical resistance, a tangible, elastic push and pull that felt like two matching negative poles of a magnet pushing against each other. And during a universal blessing session, my hands grew radiatingly hot, as if I was resting my palms directly on a warm radiator, getting that heat, even though we were sitting in full mountain shade. That experience transformed my understanding of functional recovery. I realized that for years I've been trying to fix my physical health while completely ignoring the dirty, stressful energy that was accumulating in my Prana Maya and Mana Maya Koshas. By combining modern medical care with subtle energy clearing and structured meditation, natural lifestyle rhythms, my energy levels were exceptional as we left the Himalayas. My mind, my body, and soul elements cascaded together in alignment. And for the first month after getting back from India, my blood pressure, which is normally high, I've got hypertension, my blood pressure was 85 over 115 for an entire month because that alignment that I achieved up in the Himalayas, doing meditation regularly and doing energy healing on a reasonably regular basis up there, actually, was had quite an impact. So let me ask you again in the audience, what's the primary resistance you're terrified to step away for? What's that thing that constantly applies a negative energy to your life, even though the stress of it might be actively damaging your physical recovery or your physical persona? So again, what's that primary negative resistance that you're terrified to step away from, even though the stress of maintaining it might be actively damaging? So let's have a look now at a question from one of my Substack comments from a Titan. And they ask this: how can a complete beginner start using energy awareness as a practical daily tool without getting lost in abstract philosophy? Because I imagine talking about the koshas and the Annamaya kosha and the Pranamaya kosha, all those sort of things, are a bit abstract for you. They're sort of woo-woo from something that's 1,500 to 2,000 years ago. But it's carried through to this day for billions of people, not millions, but billions of people. So it has to have some relevance in our modern lifestyle. So let's unpack that a bit, because I'd like to answer that question from the comments. What is energy awareness? Well, energy awareness is the habit of scanning your subtle body, your auras and your chakras, to sense stress and congestion before it turns into physical pain. Now, I must say at this stage, just for your reference, I'm not a spirit. I'm not a religious person. I'm an engineer. So for me, these sort of concepts, these abstract concepts, start as abstract, but then become embodied in me once I start to explore them. And I encourage you to do the same. Give them a go anyway. So energy awareness, it's the scanning of your subtle body, your auras and your chakras. Why does it work? Well, everything in the universe is vibratory energy, okay? So it's vibrating. And Albert Einstein demonstrated that through his formula that we all know and learn at school, E equals mc squared. But what it actually means, the definition side of it, is physical mass, in his terms, is simply condensed energy. Basically, it moves faster and faster and faster and becomes physical once it's moving so fast. So when you experience emotional stress, fear, or guilt, that negative energy accumulates in your prana maya kosha. By clearing dirty energy and energizing your system with fresh life force, that prana energy we were talking about earlier, you give your physical body the space it needs to self-repair. Now, I've never thought of this before this particular trip up into the mountains. So what I'd like to do here right now is give you a feeling and an understanding of how that works. So I'm going to demonstrate it. And you can take this away at any stage and have a go yourself. So basically what happens is you sit comfortably with a nice straight spine. You inhale deeply, hold, exhale. You press your fingertips firmly into your palms of each opposing hand for about 5 seconds. And that just activates and stimulates the hand chakras. There's actually chakras all through your body. And the next step is called the energy scan. So what you do there is you hold your palms facing each other about 2 feet apart. I'm only a foot apart at the moment because we've got a camera here, but normally it's about 2 feet apart, so shoulder width apart. And then what you do is you slowly bring your hands in, and eventually you'll actually feel this warm push against each hand. I'm starting to feel it there about 1 foot apart. And you're starting to feel this energy that's pushing towards each hand, pushing them away from each other. If you have your eyes closed, you can actually feel it far more than if you open them. So when I open them, the energy releases. But when I close them, so right there, I can feel both of them pushing against each other. And it's like that. I don't know if you, as a kid, I had these two goats. They were called push me, pull you. And they were magnetized, and you push them together and they go poof and fight each other away. And that's the feeling that you get. It's a subtle sensory feedback. It's a gentle warmth, a tingling sensation. It can be magnetic or an elastic push between your hands. And when we sat there up in the mountains and he was talking us through, there's a recording that I'm releasing tonight of the interview, and he goes through this there. I was actually feeling quite a physical push to the point where once I came in and felt the hard push, I could actually work my way back out to here. That's something I'd never experienced before. I wasn't there to just do something for a camera. I don't do these interviews as a sensational thing. I do them to genuinely understand what perspectives there are on healing, because I'd like to apply as many of them as possible in the appropriate manner so that I can live for as long as possible. But that push is your physical interaction with the universal life force, that one we call prana. And there's another one that just basically that process just shows you where your energy is for the day. So if you're pushing it, yes, mine's out there at the moment, about 3/4 of a foot. If you're 30 centimeters thereabouts. So on days when your energy is low, it might be in here. See, right now, out here, it's pushing hard, and in here, it's just releasing, it's collapsing. So definitely my energy is out here is quite good today, but it changes from time to time. So what I'd like to do now is going away from that gauge, if you like, of where your energy, your koshas are at. I'd like to give you also a takeaway hygienic cleanse that you can do, and that he showed us while we were up there. So, you shower in the evenings, in the mornings, whatever the case is, you shower to clean your physical body, your Anamaya kosha, but take 5 minutes in the evening to clear your energy body, and you might feel a little bit lighter again. And to do that, it's really quite simple. You can do it in the shower, in the bathroom, so nobody's watching. Just sweep your hands down your arms and your torso, and you just flick it off. So you can't see in the camera here, but I'm sweeping it down my arms, and then I flick it off at the end. You're literally just going down the arm and then flick it off, down the arm and flick it off. And you can actually feel, I'm feeling a tingling sensation down both arms, and you feel that release. Now, whether it's psychosomatic or not doesn't matter, but you're actually feeling this release, and you'll feel a lot calmer for it afterwards. Follow this with 3 minutes of pranic breathing, yogic breathing, and that will help you absorb fresh prana, fresh energy. So one of the breathings you can use is box breathing, which we use to disrupt bad energy and bad conversations. For instance, if you're in a conversation, a meeting, and it's really going bad for you, you can just pause for a minute and quietly do box breathing. So box breathing is breathing in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, and then hold for 4 seconds at the bottom. So what's the single, I'm asking you guys in the audience again, what's a single non-negotiable choice you're executing within the next 24 hours to protect your alignment? I've actually just done 3 things as a demonstration. I can tell you right now, I'm not joking about this, I can tell you right now, I'm feeling a lot lighter and a lot more relaxed, even though I'm here doing a presentation to you right now. But information alone will never alter your biological metrics or rewrite a clinical prognosis. Real transformation requires aligned, self-directed execution. You don't have to map this uncharted terrain yourself. In a few weeks' time, I'll be relaunching our Substack paid subscription. So watch this space for some exciting news in the weeks to come, because you can work with others, you can talk with others, and you can certainly join the Alignment Campus and talk with Pharma Concordia 24/7. She's there for you all the time. But something I keep saying to anybody who's listening, your health doesn't belong to your specialist, your employer, or your insurance carrier. Your health is yours. So do with it as best you can and make it your occupation, because you might just become an expert. So thank you for tuning into another episode of Let's Talk Live. Keep your hands firmly on the wheel. Stay present on that knife edge of time. This is where all the action happens. Not the past, not the future, but now, the knife edge of time. And I'll see you right here next week. Thanks for watching. See ya.
Health is your occupation and you don't work it alone. I'm Farmer, your navigator. Start on Substack.